Hello, 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 all of you beautiful people from around the world. I'm Josh. This is the Den of Nerds, and this stream is pretty impromptu. I actually did not plan on doing this stream. It's been kind of a weird morning. I do want to say, if you're watching this on the replay, I do apologize. There will not be face cam on this video. Just treat it more as a podcast. This is just a live stream where I'm going to just be talking about the movie and doing some Q&A with people that come in here and want to talk about it. Because what happened was I was going to do a video about the box office for the Rise of Skywalker. We wanted to talk about that. And I ended up accidentally going live. And then I said, you know what, screw it. I'll just go live and talk about the box office anyways. And when it came time to do the Q&A portion of that, people were really just interested in talking about the film. And talking about the spoilers and, asking me why I like it. That's a big sentiment out there. It's like, how can you love this movie? I don't understand. And so I wanted to kind of get into that. I wanted to talk about that. So if you're coming in here, what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of blabber about this movie and why I like it. And then I want to get into Q&A. Because I think the thing is, man, it's Star Wars. It's a conversation. You know, and this is actually I think some of the conversations to be had about this film are actually really cool. And this is a great time to be having these conversations while emotions are fresh. And even though I know it can get contentious and people can be upset, these are the conversations we're supposed to be having as Star Wars fans. We get out of the movies and we go digest what happened. We talk about what's going on in the story. We question the things that we weren't fond of. We talk about the things that we liked. I mean, this is like that comic book talk, man. It's Wednesday. We get the new comics. The new big crazy thing happened, and then everybody sits around and it's like, yo, what did you think about that? And there's varied opinions. I think that's okay. But I obviously know too that when it comes to Star Wars, this is this is a contentious, crazy thing. So I also need to tweet about this real quick. So give me 1 second, because I know we just did this other live stream and this one will probably not pop up for people, with their notifications. So let me just do this real quick, but let me know in chat, guys. I want to know, how did you feel about the movie? I know everybody's got feelings. What did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? Let me know in chat. I'll go over a few of those in a second here. I am curious. It's one of these things, man. It's hard for me to get a read. It's hard for me to get a read on the fan base right now. I know there's a lot of people upset. I know there's a lot of people that are mad about the film that I expected to be mad about the film, and they're just a broken record. You know what I mean? So I don't, what do I think of those things, those opinions? Can I even take those opinions seriously? I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, so we got the tweet up. Let's go over here. Let's see what people are saying. By the way, how's it sound, guys? I do apologize. I apologize about no face cam. Isn't the coolest stream, but I figured screw it. There were 300 people that were all yelling at me to just talk about the movie at the end of the last stream. So I figured let's do that. Daisy says, I'm glad you loved it, Josh, but I would have loved it if Ben had lived. I got to be honest with you. I went into the film thinking, Ben's going to die, because I just kind of thought that, it's a Star Wars thing. And I didn't expect to, care in a way. I didn't expect to be like, yeah, no, he should have lived. But Ben Solo was so cool in this film that, yeah, I do wish he lived. Do you know what I mean? I really do. I don't know if he can. When you look back at when you think about the Star Wars rules, and I know some people don't think about the Star Wars rules. Ryan Johnson, sorry, I had to go there. But when you think about the Star Wars rules, I think Ben had to die. I think Ben had to die. And in a lot of ways, he's not really dead. And I'll talk about this. Well, I'm going to wait a little bit here so we get a couple more people in here, and then I'm going to go into my diatribe about why I love this movie and why the more I think about it, I like it even more. And honestly, the mythology in this movie, I would like to have a debate with someone that thinks the movie's utter trash and ruins Star Wars, simply because I think if you just look at the lore, and particularly if you look at what Star Wars is, you got to frame it with what Star Wars is. I could not give this movie an A. This is not an incredible movie. You could make an argument it's not even a great movie, maybe not even a good movie. But in my opinion, this is some damn fine Star Wars. This is some damn fine Star Wars. And I guess I'll just kind of go into it from there, okay? I really do believe that in some ways, JJ was forced to make I almost want to say lackluster movie. I'm just going to say it because this is going to be weird because some people will take what I'm saying in totally wrong ways or whatever. But it is what it is. I got to just speak from the dome. I got to tell you guys exactly how I feel. So this might sound almost contradictory in some ways, but I just got to let you know how I feel. You could even call this movie a bad movie. But I think that JJ literally bit the bullet on making a less than great film because we all know he's really good at making movies. He can make movies, and he can make really good movies. And I think JJ clearly bit the bullet of not making what would be remembered as an incredible film in order to, I don't want to say save, but in order to at least put the Star Wars mythos back where it belonged, And this is something I always said about The Last Jedi and about Ryan's film. And you can look back. In fact, look, I don't know. It's still early. We're all talking about this thing. We all saw this movie. We're all trying to decide how we feel and everything. I kind of feel like going back and grabbing all of these clips over the last 2 years where I said to people essentially, yes, The Last Jedi dances away from your regularly scheduled Star Wars. Yes, The Last Jedi subverts Star Wars tropes. Yes, The Last Jedi gave us a bad part of Luke's journey. And I don't mean bad objectively. I mean like Luke's going through it. He's not himself. I always tried to explain that while that did happen in that movie, it was going to return to norm in the next film. That's just how it goes. That was my opinion. I'm not saying that I was like some prophet looking into a crystal ball and seeing that for sure, but that was just my opinion. I was like, yeah, no, okay, so we danced away and now we come back. We come back to form. And I think JJ was given a next to impossible task. And mainly, his task really is how do I get to where I should be in order to make the movie that I want to make. And really, that film, to me, the film has 20 minutes of crazy fast, streamlined exposition, borderline confusing, blink if you'll miss it sort of stuff that sets up the movie that JJ wants to make. And so he's doing a really weird thing at the beginning of that film. And if you watched him in interviews talk about the movie, he was very open in interviews about how the first act of this film was the thing that was difficult to figure out. That he essentially had figured out the ending more or less a while ago, but that it took him time to figure out the first act. And that is simply because Ryan had no intention of setting the next movie up to be like that traditional, to be like that group Star Wars adventure film. Even though technically they do end up back together, Poe, Finn, and Rey are technically back together, it's just, I really do feel like in order to get to the movie that JJ wanted to make, he had to almost create an extended crawl that was really played out. Okay? I also feel that once the movie gets to where JJ's movie would have been, it's great. Like, and not just good, but great. And the reason I know it's actually great is because there are a million critics right now and a million YouTubers right now that are trying to shit all over this movie. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear. I know it's we'll do a PG-13 stream this morning. But back to the point, there are a lot of people trying to crap all over this movie, and almost every single one of them brings up the fact that there are moments between the main cast in this movie that are so good that it makes them long for what could have been. And it almost like, and I can see in some ways how that would actually even anger people even more. But I'm still totally glad that we got it. And so I can tell you almost for 1,000% that once we get to the crew, once we get to them together and and we have what the villain is, we know what the threat is for the film. Like once we get there, there's some really good stuff. Some of the best stuff that I've seen with this cast as they're together. And I really loved the way they played the dynamic of the trio. Because this is not the trio of the past. This is not Leia, Luke, and Han. This is Finn, this is Poe, and this is Rey. And I gotta tell you, the dynamic established between those characters is so good. I love that Rey is having an identity crisis and that she's this symbol for hope, but she's also kind of being, it's almost like that imposter syndrome that a lot of these actors have experienced in real life. And Daisy has been very open about how she had imposter syndrome, with this role and with her new stardom and everything. And essentially like Rey's going through it, man. Even though she's supposed to be this hero, this leader and all this, she's going through it. Finn is in a really interesting spot. And actually I want to get to him last because I love what they did with Finn. Yo, I love what they did with Finn. But anyway, the reason I think this dynamic really works is because Oscar and Daisy's conflict, where Poe is like kind of almost angry because Rey is not out there helping them and she's the strongest fighter and she's just sitting there training. And he's like, no, like this is crazy. And the tension between those two that's very like argumentative, I thought worked brilliantly. I also love how you have Finn stuck in the middle because he's got a true bromance with Poe, which they establish brilliantly right off the bat. He's got a true bromance with Poe, but he also has this connection with Rey beyond just the fact that he obviously has feelings for her. He cares for her. He is her best friend. She's one of the first people that he has a real relationship with after leaving, being a stormtrooper. But not only that, but it's super clear when you watch the movie that he actually has a connection to the Force. And so there's another layer there. And there's some moments in the film that are really cool that play with this whole thing. There's a moment where when Rey leaves to go find the Wayfinder on the Death Star without anybody there, you see this conflict flare up again where Poe is incredibly pissed off that she would do that. You know what I mean? And Finn is trying to explain that that Poe does not know what she's dealing with. And Poe but what's so cool about that is it's the bromance guy. It's the guy in the middle. He's trying to tell his bro. He's like, yo, back it up. You don't know what she's dealing with. He's talking, of course, of the dark side. He's talking about what it is to be tapped into the Force, what that's like. You have no idea. She needs to go. And Poe's like, but you do. Basically, he's like, you don't know what she has to deal with. And Poe rebuttals with, but you do? ? And at that moment, Finn says, yes, I do. And so does Leia. Saying that, like, he is of that cloth. He is Force sensitive, essentially. That he knows and they don't know. And there's, like, this really good conflict there where, Poe says, well, I'm not Leia. And Finn's like, that's for damn sure. And, like, I just buy it, okay? So not to, like, totally gush about that aspect of it because I'll try to keep it moving here. But all that to say that I think once we get to the movie JJ wanted to make, it's a really good movie. And even I think what's crazy about the film is in those moments, it is actually paced out well. There are scenes that have time to breathe. There are things that have time to breathe, but there's just like some really rushed parts at the very beginning. And then there is some rushed stuff at the end of Act 2 going into Act 3. Now, let me talk about the main reason why I love this movie. And the main reason I love this movie is because of the ending. And strangely, it is not because of the execution of the ending of the film, but rather the more I investigate and think about what actually happened, I love it, and I feel as though it's very Star Wars, and it is very sound from the mythology aspects of what Star Wars is. And I've already done a video sort of explaining the ending, but really there's a part there that I haven't really talked about yet, but I am almost 1,000% sure that there's something that happens at the end that not a lot of people are talking about. And arguably that's because most people are just crapping on the movie and just being angry and not thinking about the movie. They don't want to think about the movie, you know what I mean? And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, do you? But there is an aspect of the ending that makes all of it make sense to me, and it's not just that I like it, it's that I love it. I love it. Now, what I am talking about here is the likelihood that Rey is pregnant with a new set of Skywalker twins. Now, let me explain why I believe this. The Force bond, the dyad, that concept, there are a couple of key things that are said in the film that make me believe that it is literally a pathway to more Skywalker twins, which also has all of this really cool mythological implications. All of this stuff that I really want to get into. So number one, Palpatine says the power of the Force dyad, the power of life itself. Okay? He recognizes what the dyad is. He says something that hasn't been seen in generations. And then he literally says something to the effect of the power of life itself. Okay? Now, when Ben mourns Rey, when he mourns her, there's this really weird thing that happens, and I don't know if everybody caught this. And on your second and third viewings, which I all hope you go see, and yes, I'm cashing those shield checks, and if you don't like it, get out of here! Of course, I'm joking. I don't get shield checks, but I do hope everybody goes to see all of the movie several times. I hope when you see this movie again, you watch this part at the end where he mourns her, and then there's like this weird pause. And he mourns her again. Like, it's weird. Like, he mourns her, and then he like mourns her again. Like, he has this like, oh no thing. It makes zero sense except to say that Ben realized that she was pregnant. And it is after that realization that he brings her back to life. And where does he place his hand when he brings her back to life? He places his hand on her womb. Now, why do I think that Ben knew that she was pregnant, and why do I think it's twins, and why do I think this all makes sense in the mythological sense? Because I actually don't like the idea of Rey going to the homestead on Tatooine, and I don't like her taking the name Skywalker. And you might be like, whoa, what is this guy on about? He loves the ending, but he hates the fact that she took the Skywalker name and that she's on Tatooine in general? Well, then I thought, why would she even go to Tatooine? Think about that. Why would she even go to Tatooine? So one of the reasons is because she knows she is pregnant with the next Skywalker twins, and she knows that she wants to raise them on Tatooine, okay? And in my opinion, when she buries the Skywalker sabers, she is not burying those sabers so that they're gone forever. She is burying those sabers for the twins, for the next set of Skywalkers. When you see the twin sons that she is looking at with BB-8, did anybody notice the difference between the twin sons at the end of this movie and the twin sons at the end, or at the beginning rather, of A New Hope? Did anybody notice the difference? Tell me in chat. I might even send you a Den of Nerds shirt if you can tell me the difference between the twin sons at the end of episode 9 and the twin sons at the beginning of the series. Anybody? So they are rising, but that's not exactly what I'm talking about. They're actually juxtaposed against each other. They're together. They're not separate. Exactly, Dustin. Dustin, give me your private info. I'll send you a shirt. Because the mythology, what's going on here is that the next twin sons, the next set of twin sons, are going to grow up together. Unlike Leia and Luke, who grew up separate. Because the only reason that Rey took the name Skywalker is because she's going to lie to her children. And she's going to raise them like they're Skywalkers. And I think, and the more I think about this, the more it actually does feel like a mythologically sound ending, and of course beginning, to the Skywalker saga. As crazy as it is, because I gotta tell you, man, like, I'm not really saying that it works like as a great ending to the movie, or that on the surface level it works as a great ending, but from a mythological standpoint, it works. It works for me. So that's kind of my thing. The more I think about that, and the more I think about what was going on with the Palpatines, what was going on with the Skywalkers, and what's going on with Ben and Rey. And I'm gonna answer your questions. Keep cool, my babies. Keep cool. I'm gonna start talking. We'll get into this conversation. But I have just a last thing that I want to say. I'm really pretty dang sure about this theory with her. I think it also makes her taking the name thing make sense, and I buy it. And she's so like motherly in this movie, and motherly in the saga in a lot of ways. Like, one of the things that's just crazy is when she heals Ben, because I'm a mythology guy, okay? Maybe some of you are not. Maybe some of you are just fans of films. Maybe some of you are just, fans of Star Wars at the science fiction level. But I am a mythology guy, okay? And so when I think about what's going on in this trilogy from a mythological standpoint, and I'm talking really mainly about JJ's movies, because I think Ryan sort of abandons those threads. I'm not judging him. I mean, I kind of am, but like, he abandons those threads. But the mythology of Rey wounding Kylo in the forest, because I really do think the crux of this whole thing is romanticism and relationships and what that's like, the power of that force attraction, you know what I mean? He is wounded in the forest at the end of the first film. And to me, I always sort of took there's this thing that Jung talked about, or where he was talking about the wounds that men carry from rejection. Basically that most men, in their lives experience rejection from a female that they are attracted to or something. And that wounds them in the psychological sense. It's like a wound that all men carry. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of the process. And she wounds him. And then in this movie, when she kills him, she heals not only the wound, the fresh wound that she used to kill him, but she heals the scar that's on his face. To me, that is a mythological full circle of rejection and acceptance. The wound, and then healing that wound, and the wholeness of what it's like to be with somebody that heals that wound. So I think that just plays, man. I think it plays. I like a lot of the things that are going on. The more I think about the film, the more I think about the mythology within it, I actually really like it. Is it a perfect movie? Absolutely not. And my final thesis on this before we get into the Q&A here is that JJ made a bad movie that I love, and he made it to write Star Wars, to write that course, to put us back on track. And now we can have all these conversations. We can think about what would happen next. We can think about how the children of Rey and Ben will someday find out that they do come from the Palpatines, that one of them will likely turn, and that, it's Star Wars. Oh, they're doing the same old stuff again. Yeah, of course they are. It's Star Wars. It's poetry. But yeah, let's get into Q&A, because I know I saw people freaking out. And Chris, Christian, I saw your super chat. I was just rambling, man. So get off my back, baby. You know what I mean? All right, Christian with the super chat. When could Rey and Ben have made a baby? And bro, there is literally no denying the lore and mythology has been tarnished. No hate here, just confused. Okay, that's fair. So I would say that the lore and the mythology has been changed, has been retconned, has been adjusted. But as I said, honestly, when I think about this film, and particularly the ending, the way it all wraps up, I think that it's it's sound in the mythological sense. I know some people get upset about the Chosen One prophecy. I mean, look, the way I read it, and I'm not telling you that this is the way you have to read it, but the way I read it is that Anakin achieved balance. There was balance. But first of all, there's no way that balance was just going to be there forever. And he did destroy the Sith. What Rey prevented was the Sith from returning, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? And so she helps restore the balance, for sure. But she wasn't the chosen one, in my opinion. And also, because the Palpatines and the Skywalkers are so intertwined, and it all starts with Sheev and Anakin, from a certain point of view, everything that happens from Anakin on that are with people that are related to him, that is a part of the Chosen One. Do you know what I mean? And when could they have made the baby? Dude, Anakin was conceived with absolutely no father. And I know in the comic book it heavily implies that it was Palpatine. I don't think that comic book confirms that it's Palpatine, but it looks like Palpatine was involved in some way with creating Anakin. But the answer is the Force, man. And the answer really is the dyad. Essentially, here's the thing. Think about it like this. If Palpatine really said that the Force dyad is the power of life itself, and they've been they're literally teleporting to each other through the Force. They're so intertwined and they're so powerful that they're teleporting to each other in the Force. And your question to me is, when could the baby have happened? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but that question doesn't make any sense in the context of what we're talking about. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But again, I'm not trying to, tear you down or say that you're wrong. And I'm not trying to say I'm right, but this is how I feel. On a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that she's pregnant? 11. 11. But here's the thing. I don't think it necessarily matters for the story. And I do ultimately still hope that I'm split. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm split. I feel like they need to do something new and they need to get away from this. Like, I don't think necessarily they should just pick up with these twins. But I also kind of want to know. It's crazy. Like, I kind of do want them to just pick up with these twins in 2022 or whatever. I kind of do. And going into the film, I told everybody, you can go back and watch the videos. I told everybody going into the film that I was like, thank God that this episode 9 will wrap this up. We will never go back to these characters. We will never continue this story, and I don't want to. And I'm like, I'm not a hater, but I'm like, okay, let's just, we did what we did with these 9 movies. That's fine. Whatever, Disney, it's cool. I'm going to give you another shot. Let's just go to the next trilogy. I was that guy. And this film completely changed my opinion, where now I'm like, dude, Force-sensitive Finn, I want more of that. This Poe dynamic with Rey and the thing with Zori, I want more of that. Rey, the new Skywalker twins, the Palpatine of it all, I want more of that. So I'm split because I think ultimately the best decision for the brand, and we'll have to wait and see what the box office is total. But they probably need to just go away from this. They probably just need to go far away, do something new, go 1,000 years into the future, and do something new. And just leave this alone, leave this for the novel writers, leave this for the comic books, leave this for the animated shows. The film should probably just go away from it, but I won't lie to you. I kind of wish they would pick this story back up. Let's see here. Christina says, has the dyad always been a part of the lore? No. The dyad in name is totally new. However, I think the concept of the dyad is not new, and particularly with Revan and Bastila, Sean, there's actually a lot of similarities between what happened with Revan and Bastila and what happened with Rey and Kylo. So, and I've also thought, look, I'm kind of getting into sort of like lore nerd speculation here, but I've always thought that the relationship between a master and an apprentice is very close to what Kylo and Rey had. But like with the master and the apprentice thing, it's there's no like there's love there, but it's not what's the word? It's like agape love, right? It's not romantic love. It kind of, it's more familia or whatever. Or not even familia, but I believe the word is agape. Someone in, like sort of platonic or whatever. So that those relationships always had boundaries. And there were barriers, and also there weren't supposed to be attachments, and so there's all this weird stuff that's sort of hurting those force connections. But I always thought, what if a master and apprentice fell in love? What if a master and apprentice fell in love and then forsook the Jedi code? I think there's actually the potential there for some really strong Force stuff going on. But as far as your question, no, the Force dyad is new. But I believe that that concept had been played around with before, particularly with Bastila, Shan, and Revan. Let's see here. Mike Noir, good take. Anakin killed Sith. Rey prevented return. The prophecy remains intact. Shame, though. So fans are saying because of the prophecy, no Sith ever. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, Mike. I don't know exactly. I think that at the end of the day, people are just mad that Anakin didn't play more of a role in this movie. I think at the end of the day, it's not so much that people can't accept that the Sith were going to return, because they just are, and if they don't, I would actually hate it, because the Sith are awesome, and the Sith parts of this movie are amazing, and I want way more Sith in the future. But I think really the complaint is coming from, why didn't Anakin show up, take that second saber from Rey, and why didn't they tag team this mofo? Sorry. I think that's really where it comes down to. And the reason is because it's Rey's trilogy. She's the hero, and they just felt as though that would take too much away from her. Anakin is still there with all of the Jedi. Anakin is still helping her, powering her, a part of this. And you could make the argument that this wouldn't have even been possible had Anakin not first struck down the Sith. So Anakin strikes down the Sith. His lineage sort of keep the peace for a while, and then there's of course conflict, and they're manipulated, and then ultimately he comes back in a sense with all the Jedi, to help the granddaughter of Palpatine destroy the Sith. So, like, I'm sorry, just for me, it doesn't really hurt the prophecy. Do I wish Anakin was in the film as a Force ghost? Absolutely. I'm a huge Anakin fan. But I actually just didn't hate it. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I didn't hate it. I wasn't super bothered by it. You know what I mean? I wasn't super bothered by it. Let's see here. Jack Payne says, thank you for this. By the way, thank you for the super chat, guys. And I'll try to get to questions that are not in the super chats as well. But the super chats, they support the channel, and they make it damn easy to answer questions. Okay, Jake Payne. Force-sensitive Finn. His character was strong and amazing, but his friend shoulder tap with Rose was disappointing. Yeah, I don't really know. Look, I don't know what's going on with the Rose Finn thing in this movie. But at the same time, you know, it's funny because a lot of people say that their kiss was one of the most awkward kisses ever. And if the character of Finn also thought that was an awkward kiss, maybe, you know what I mean? You kind of get where I'm going with this? Like, maybe he had to kind of keep her in the friend zone. I mean, technically, Finn is friend zoned by Rey. Why can't he friend zone Rose? You know what I mean? I do get what you're saying, Jack Payne, but it didn't really bother me that much. Force-sensitive Finn. Oh, my goodness. And he's actually just stoic and put together. Boyega's performance is great. I loved Boyega as Force-sensitive Finn. It's good stuff. Christian Longo. Bet you can't explain why Kylo and Rey are a dyad. Again, I get where you're coming from, but you can make that argument about a lot of things in Star Wars. Why is Anakin a Force birth? You know what I'm saying? Why is Darth Vader the chosen one? Why did Luke and Leia end up being sisters? Why is there always a super weapon? You know what I mean? Like, I get you, but it doesn't take away from it from a mythological standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, like I don't know what you want from Star Wars movies. Star Wars movies have always been like this. It's like episodic, it's operatic, it's full of exposition, it's full of ridiculous dialogue, and it's full of space wizards. So, I don't know, man. Like, again, not trying to be rude. I get where you're coming from. Now, here's the thing, Christian. If you were to pose a question to me like this, if you were to say this to me, I think we would agree. And maybe this is what you mean. If there's two roads for Star Wars to go down, and one is more religious and one is more commercial, I am 1,000% that we should go down the more religious road. Star Wars should not be treated like a product. Star Wars should be treated with respect, and it should be treated as a sort of sacred thing. And if that's where your criticisms are coming from, then we can at least find common ground in that, because I agree with you. But what I'm saying to you is, for me, and I'm not an authority on this in the way that, like, what I feel is the way other people should feel, but I'm telling you, I'm in it, bro. I'm in it as you can be. My life is Star Wars in a lot of ways. I'm making my livelihood currently from Star Wars. You know what I mean? I've been in the battles. I've been in the drama. And I'm just telling you, honestly, the mythology in this movie works for me. I feel like he sacrificed the reviews. I feel like he sacrificed the idea of putting together a great movie. And I think he only did it, maybe not only, but a big part of him doing it was to keep the mythology intact. But that's just my opinion. Let's see here. Thomas Fenton says, are we going to get another movie with Rey in it? I am so split on that. On the one hand, I say, no way. Like, just no way. No way. But on the other hand, I kind of think that this movie leaves off in a perfect place to continue the story, and to continue the Skywalker movies, which again is another reason why it's like Disney should just stop saying this is the end of the Skywalker saga, because it's definitely not. You know what I mean? So I'm really split on that. I don't know if we should or will get another movie with Rey, but I am way more open to that now than I was going into this film. Did I miss a super chat? Sometimes I can't read the super chats on the thing. Not super intuitive. Let's see here. We had a super chat come in. Okay. By Dylan George. Why is irony always lost on Star Wars fans? I don't know, man. Look, I don't think it's necessarily lost on them, but I think Star Wars fans are innately passionate and they want... Look, here's the thing. Like, I think we need to do a couple of different things here. This is a stream talking about why I love The Rise of Skywalker. But make no mistake, the sequel trilogy as a whole, as far as a product that Disney made for us, Star Wars fans, like C+. And that's kind of being generous, like C+. We deserve way better. But what I'm trying to suggest with this stream and with my thoughts on this film is that JJ did something that I think in the years to come, we will look back and actually give him a lot of credit for. And that is that he put us back on the mythological track. And he wrapped it up in a way that, because he knew, think about it, dude. Do you think JJ didn't know that for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, for the next 50 years, we're going to be picking apart this movie? Do you think that he didn't realize that people were going to dissect this thing, do freaking classes about this thing, dissertations and everything? No, he knew. And I truly believe that he did something in this movie that we will live to give him a lot of props for. That, like, down the line, we will look, just like with the prequels, we're going to look back at this movie and be like, you know what? Weird movie, great storytelling. Weird movie, but some damn fine Star Warsing. That's what I think. Dylan says we need more Rey. Please. She's amazing. Look, Dylan, I was not 100% on board with Rey going into this movie. She crushes it in this movie. Daisy Ridley has a couple of key moments that are very important that could have easily went a wonky way that I buy completely. When she talks to Finn in the ship after seemingly killing Chewie and blasting with the Force lightning, dude, I get chills when I see her in that moment. And it's so cool. Let me talk about another weird thing that I love about this movie is how they sort of flip-flop from the first movie, at least from the ending. In this film, Kylo is stronger than Rey. He is just straight up stronger than Rey. He initiates every Force bond they have. He is toying with her the entire film. He literally beats her and is about to kill her and is stopped by his mother. Now, that's important in the mythological sense because Rey needs to rail against a powerful force, and in order for this dynamic to work, Ben had to reestablish dominance, at least from the dark side's perspective, while he's Kylo, in order to make this arc make sense for Rey. But Rey in the film sells it. She's struggling. I like it, man. The way she's sort of toying with the dark side. She wants to destroy Palpatine. That's clearly not a Jedi thing to do. Like, she has a very interesting arc in this film. And so I agree that we need to see more of Rey. We will see more of Rey. I just don't know if that's the move. Let's be real. This movie might not even make $1 billion. This trilogy is likely going to be looked at very negatively by a lot of people. And I'm just being real. I'm not trying to say like, oh, that's right or wrong or whatever, but it's the facts. And so depending on the box office, depending on what happens in the next few weeks, it might be just plainly a very dumb idea for Disney to just continue making these movies like this. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we can have a nuanced conversation about this, right? Where we're all, if we like the movie, we like the movie. We don't like it, we don't like it. But bottom line, things need to change at Lucasfilm. And we deserve much better stuff going forward. And maybe it's not smart to just pick up with Rey and everybody in the next film, because that doesn't feel like a fresh start. That doesn't feel like, okay, now we're going to give this a try. I don't think it's what we need as fans. I hope that makes sense. Christian says, I just feel the ending was disrespectful. Great movie. So you liked the movie, but you did not care for the ending. Is that kind of where you're at with it? Yeah. I can see where you're at with it. Yeah, Kylo beat Rey. And again, one of the reasons that's so cool, man, is because it shows that she is not just struggling in the sense of like she's having trouble dealing with all of this stuff, but that she's split to the core the way that Kylo was. When Kylo kills his father, he thinks it's going to make him powerful. It actually makes him weak. It makes him weak because he's split. He's conflicted. He's literally devastated by it. And Rey and some of the things she does and the choices she makes in this film leave her vulnerable and split. And so she's railing against this force of nature from the dark side, which is Kylo. Because at this point, Kylo has it all figured out. And we know there's cracks. We can see the cracks. But, like, he is very strong and sure of himself in this movie. And she is not. And I think it works. It ebbs and it flows. We need Rey training a teenage-esque Yoda. That would be cool. A little baby Yoda. That was cool. Oh, Christian, I totally disagree. You said it's cringe in the scene where she helps the girl up. I think that you could maybe say that scene was cringe, but Daisy plays that perfectly. Because she's just like, okay. Like, I don't know. To me, she's perfect in that scene. Perfect. Can I talk about the connection to the Mandalorian? Are you talking about the Force healing? We can talk about the Force healing. Everybody, class, raise your hands if you'd like to talk about the Force healing. Because some people think that the Force healing breaks Star Wars. Some people think that it breaks Star Wars. Force healing is a concept that any self-respecting Star Wars fan that calls themselves hardcore knows is already a thing. So, Force healing does not break anything, and I actually really like the way that it is handled in this movie, because the cost of this Force healing is paid in life force, which makes a lot of sense. And again, it sort of explains why at the end of the film Ben had to die, because depending on how you look at it, he's not just bringing one person back to life, but he's possibly bringing 3. Do you know what I mean? Also, I believe it is explained, or at least it was talked about, and it'll probably be sort of clarified in like the lore and in ancillary materials and stuff like that. It'll probably be explained more as we go along. But Force healing has to be done by someone that is of pure heart and that is on the light side of the Force and is very strong. And so, look, is this the super nerdy, the super weird, the super crazy, den of nerds type talk? But yeah, it is. I mean, think about this, guys. Why didn't Obi-Wan force heal Qui-Gon in that movie? Well, there's possibly 3 different reasons that come up to me. Number 1, the most obvious, is that he's just doesn't know that technique. He's not powerful enough. He's a Padawan. And Obi-Wan, although he beats Vader and beats Maul and is very powerful, Obi-Wan was never considered to be one of the most powerful Jedi as far as Force abilities go, right? Another possible explanation is that Obi-Wan is not pure of heart and he is not fully on the light side. And you might be like, what? But there's a lot of anger when he cuts down Darth Maul. He takes Maul for revenge. So maybe he doesn't even have access to that ability. The third reason is because Qui-Gon is killed, and then there's a force fight. And then after a force fight, he gets over to Qui-Gon. It was probably too long. Too much time had passed since the wound. He did. He gone. And I think it's kind of just a pedantic thing for fans to get upset about. And I see everybody that's coming in. I see you guys. What's up, Ken Cologne? Ryan is in here too. Executive producer Ryan. I see everybody. I'm just rambling about some Star Wars, guys. How's the holidays going for everybody though? Everybody having good times? Probably go for about 10 more minutes here, guys. If you have some questions, get your questions in. The Grey Council's in here. Is Rey pregnant? 1,000% yes, Rey is pregnant. I went over all of the clues and the reasons that I believe this earlier on in the stream. Suggest you check it out on the replay. But I'm also going to do a very succinct video about it that is going to get very deep on why Rey is pregnant and why that is a perfect ending. What do you think the next trilogy will be? I have no idea. I'm split, man. I'm split. I kind of want Old Republic. I kind of want Way in the Future. And I kind of want Episode 10. I don't know how to feel. Oh, agape is the godlike. Okay, yeah, so filio, yeah. I knew it was one of those. There was like a Latin breakdown of it, right? Who was the person that broke that down? There was a philosopher, I believe, that broke that all down. Best scene of the movie? Thoughts? Here's what I'll say. Ooh, okay, so Four Leaf Clover, the director choice is easy, but it's probably not going to be this person. But I would love Deborah Chow or Dave Filoni. Or Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau or Deborah Chow should be the director of the next film. But here's the caveat. The caveat is Deborah Chow is going to be making the Obi-Wan series. And one of the big problems with Lucasfilm right now is that they I think they've been putting too much on certain people's plates, and they're just so hell-bent on like hitting these dates and stuff. And like the last thing in the world they need to do now is be like, hey, Deborah Chow, you got to absolutely nail this Obi-Wan series, and then meanwhile develop this new movie. Holy crap, all the pressure in the world is on you. So like I don't think they can give it to Chow, even though she'd be the best choice. So that's where I'm at. Let's see here. Chris said, check the dono. Okay. Let's see. We've got a couple super chats. Mr. Sketch 22 said, and visually best film in the trilogy. Oh, that reminds me. Thank you, Mr. Sketch, by the way, for the super chat. That reminds me. Somebody asked me about the best moment in the movie. I think one of the things I love about the movie the most is once we get to Exegol, once Rey goes to into the throne room, the palette of the film, like that to me is like, I want more of that. Like that's what I want Star Wars to be in the future, and it definitely feels like Dark Empire. Like even like those cool blues and those greens and just the palette to me, I was like, dude, this is awesome. And it's like borderline anime. Like I got some anime vibes going on in there. I was like, this is freaking cool as hell. And I loved the Sith stuff. I just loved it. I loved all of the Sith stuff in the film. So I'd probably have to say the ending itself on Exegol is my favorite part of the movie. Christian Longo says, in the visual guide, it talks about Rey learning healing techniques from the Jedi text. That's how she healed her kyber crystal, so I'm okay with it. Wow, that's really cool. I actually didn't even know that. That is pretty freaking cool. Let me tell you guys something else that's kind of weird about the movie. The mythological, there's this, dude, it's so mythological in the movie. I'm telling you it is. The serpent that she heals and what that implies. God, it's like really cool. It has multiple mythological meanings. I'm going to be breaking down a lot of this stuff, but I really, when you see it in the movie, you're just like, what the hell? There's like this sandworm thing randomly and she's going to heal it. And then you think about what it actually means. The serpent, the sort of male, the sort of phallic implications. What does it mean that this motherly person is healing this serpent? You start to think about that stuff, you're like, dude, that's cool. The yellow saber, it's actually gold, apparently. It's supposed to be gold in the film. I think the yellow saber definitely refers to Jedi Sentinels. It refers to the Gray Jedi. It also refers to a new path. It's supposed to represent a new path, like a new way of doing things, in my opinion. Hannah Brook Media says, is there any chance Ben could come back? It depends on your definition of Ben coming back. Technically, he lives in her now. You know what I mean? They're two parts of one, right? And he's absorbed into the Force. The dyad is now truly one. So Ben lives within her. Now, is he coming back in the flesh to make sure that Rey picks out a good school district on Tatooine? No, I'm sorry, he's not. You know? Sorry. Like that. You know, everybody has expectations. Everybody has things that they want. And I understand that there's certain people, especially in the Reylo community, that are really bummed that Ben is dead. But, I gotta tell you, that's the way it is. But I appreciate the super chat, and Merry Christmas to you. Daisy Johnson says, Josh, remember the leaks where Leia steps in to save the baby? Merry Christmas. I don't know if I remember those leaks or not, actually. I remember I had a forced child theory way back in the day. I thought they actually conceived a child when they touched hands. Because, you know, that comment Ryan made about it being a sex scene, sort of, and all of that. I thought they would have conceived a child back then. Yeah. Where did she get... So, Ryan, I actually don't know if that's true in the canon now. I think that was Legends. I did talk about it? I don't know if that's the way it works with the crystals right now. You know, here's my theory on the saber. That crystal was her father's. The crystal was her father's. It was in her staff the whole time. The crystal was her father's, and it was in her staff the entire time, which is why it's always so close to her. She keeps it so close. Because really, the big untold story in this whole thing is the son of Palpatine. That story is like, what? I'd really like to know more about the son of Palpatine that rejected it, that chose to be no one, and that gave birth to Rey. No, I think Christian... So, I think he did have the Force. I 100% believe that her father was not just strong with the Force, but incredibly strong with the Force. But sort of like Luke, he was probably just cutting himself off from the Force, choosing to be no one to try to protect his daughter. Now, Luke's doing it out of fear. Her dad ultimately is doing it out of fear as well. But make no mistake, that dude was probably hella strong with the Force. You know what I mean? And we don't know. Would you have found it good if Kylo survived? Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. I would have been cool with it, but again, I think that there's just too much Star Wars logic to suggest that he kind of had to die. And I know, like, people are like, but he, like, literally didn't. Like, JJ just literally could have wrote it differently. I get that. But from the Star Wars perspective, he kind of had to die. You know? I think he just kind of had to die. Yeah, they'll probably do a novel, or, you know what would be the best? Christian, here's the thing they got to do. Get Dave Filoni to do an entire series, an animated series, and you can make it, like, just make it really tight. 3 seasons, tight as hell. It's the story of the son of Palpatine. Call it, like, Son of Darkness, you know, or Son of the Shadow, or something like that. And then you tell the story of that. And it could tie a lot of things together, because some people are speculating that he could have been one of Luke's students. That Palpatine's son could have been with Skywalker, but then he decides to leave, and Luke's like, okay, yeah, maybe you should leave. And that's where, because Luke, apparently now, it's retconned that Luke always knew she was a Palpatine. Leia always knew she was a Palpatine. Even Han may have known she was a Palpatine, because there's that scene where they're like, where Maz is like, who's the girl? And then we cut away. And when, you know, there's weird stuff in that movie where, like, Han hears that her name is Rey, and he has this, like, weird, like, smile and all that. And when you go back and watch Force Awakens now, with the context of knowing that she's a Skywalker, and that, or that she's a Palpatine, and that a lot of people already knew it, I think it actually improves the viewing experience. But again, guys, here's what I want to say with the final words, because I'm going to get out of here, okay? I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys hanging out and talking Star Wars. And if you're watching this on the replay, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you watching the video this long. Thanks so much. Last thing I will say, again, can't give this movie an A. I can't say that it's even necessarily a good movie, but I think it's some damn fine Star Wars, and I hold true to the fact that I loved it. I love this movie. I love this movie. And it's okay to love the movie, guys. If you're worried about what people are going to say to you on the internet if you love the movie, just do yourself a favor and just let that go, man. Let that go. Let it go. I love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. We have a lot more Star Wars videos coming out over the next couple of days. Maybe we'll do some face cam streams soon. But thanks for hanging out. And either way, there'll be some cool content coming out. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.